Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I'm super excited about today's message. Thanks, Rick. What I was thinking was really funny about the church van thing is we really need to pray for that church van, because I think it was last year we were driving to summer camp. Dan ended up getting COVID, so he couldn't go. So it was just me and Rick. Rick took his truck. I took the church van. And as we were driving on the freeway, I had I think it was all the girls. I had all the girls in my van, and we were driving on the freeway, and all of a sudden, we were going 55 miles per hour or something, and then all of a sudden the car just went choo-choo, the van, and I was like, oh shoot, that's weird. I was like, that's weird. The car just did a little jolt. Maybe Tim could tell me what that was. No, just kidding. But I drove a little bit faster, and all of a sudden the engine completely just cut out, and I was like, oh my gosh, the gas pedal wasn't working. And then I was trying to be super calm and just be like, oh my gosh, so we're gonna go ahead and just pull over a little bit. Girls, you guys remember, right? Aaliyah, Kate. I was like, yeah, the engine's not working anymore. And all these cars are phew, 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 going by super fast, and I'm trying not to die, because we're in the A lane trying to get over all the way to the side of the freeway just to park, and the engine just completely cut off. So anyways, we got it fixed, so that's good. I'm sure that won't happen, but that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life with youth. So yes, pray for the church van. Amen. Awesome. So I have something I want to talk about that I'm super passionate about, and just been waiting to talk about it with here at Coast. And it's basically what I want to talk to you guys about is how to tend to the needs of your own heart. And I think that's really important in today's, just in life, in today's society, and just in how we're able to speak to our heart and to give our hearts what it needs, and to take in the love of God, so that way we can be filled and nourished and have a healthy soul. And so we could live fully alive. How many of you guys want to live fully alive? Cool. Well, today's message is perfect for that. So we're gonna talk about tending to the needs of your own heart. So what I'm very passionate about is emotional health, and we're kind of in this really big boom. If you guys have noticed, it's boom, emotional health, boom, self-help, boom, mental health. It's happening worldwide right now, and I love it. But the one problem that I have with it is that without the lordship of Jesus, self-help can become self-obsession, and it can turn into self-exaltation, where it's so it becomes so about me and so prideful that there actually isn't room to give. And so I want to actually bring a healthy balance, where actually God shows what real emotional health looks like with the lordship of Jesus. Woo! And so I'll also be talking a little bit about loving yourself well, because I teach a class in RSM. It's called Loving Yourself Well. And I teach the students basically how to destroy shame and to come to themselves with love. And it's all the love that we get from the Father, right? All the love that we come to ourselves with is compassion from Jesus, compassion from the Father, kindness from the Father, gentleness from the Father. And then we take that love, that compassion, that kindness, and we go, this is how I'm going to speak over myself now. And so I have a couple examples that I'm going to go over. Maybe a couple testimonies, and I have 4 pages of notes here, and I don't even know how I'm going to read it, because it's all just splatted on there. But there's this Bible verse that I want to open up with, and this is Psalms 40. Don't worry, I don't have that one. This is just, yes, this is what it is. Psalms 40, verse 10 says, I don't keep it a secret or hide the truth. I preach of your faithfulness and kindness, proclaiming your extravagant love to the largest crowd. I can find. So Lord, don't hold back your love or withhold your tender mercies from me. Keep me in your truth and let your compassion overflow to me no matter what I face. That's a good word. Keep me in your truth, God, and let your compassion overflow to me no matter what I'm facing. Evil surrounds me, problems greater than I can solve come one after another. Without you, I know I can't make it. And what I love about this verse is David is saying, God, without your compassion, I can't do it. And I really find that is true in my life. I need his compassion. Like, the Lord is strong, he's a mighty warrior, but I also need his gentleness to come and fill me. And you see all throughout Scripture, David constantly goes, Lord, give me your compassion. Lord, let your compassion overflow into me. Let your tender mercies overtake me, because without it, I can't face anything in my life. And he's about to go into war. And what's crazy, and this is what the Lord showed me, is he said, Anthony, David's not asking for more willpower and more swords and more armies and more what he can do with his own strength. He's asking for my compassion. You need to ask for my compassion now, because that is your strength. Just like Jack opened up and he said, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so a lot of this, what I'm going to share today, is also just how to have compassion on yourself and how to receive compassion. Because in today's society, I've just noticed it's hard. It's easier to beat yourself up and to actually not love yourself and to think that that's doing service to the Lord, when in all actuality, it's actually hindering the way that you can pour out your love to other people. And so let's turn to Luke 10:27. I'm just going to go ahead and read from there real quick. Luke 10:27 says, so he answered and said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. And then it says, and your neighbor as yourself. Mark 12:30 says the same thing. And I think it's really important actually learning how to, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Love your neighbor well. And one of the things that I've actually noticed is that it's really easy when people have a hard time and to get afraid when they express it to you and when they're vulnerable with you. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. And so my wifey is here. If we can just give her a round of applause as she just comes up for a second. Yeah. So we thought it'd be really funny if we just did some examples on what not to do when somebody's being vulnerable and is expressing like their story and their needs to somebody when they're really needing comfort, validation, compassion. And so one of the things that I've heard a lot, and I've even had it towards me, is when I express something vulnerable and I'm like, hey, I'm going through a really hard time. Don't be happy. Don't be sad. Be happy. Jesus died for that. And then it's like, oh, like I can't really share. That's an extreme example, but like I can't really share my heart with you because my experience is being belittled. And part of actually loving people well and actually being emotionally healthy is actually being able to go, let me listen to your story before I give you advice, before I try to fix it, or before I give you a scripture verse. Those three things tear down any kind of vulnerability when people come to you, because they're like, oh, I can't really share with you what I'm experiencing in my heart because you're just trying to fix it. And we don't need more fixers. We need listeners. And the Lord's the best listener, right? Like he's the one that leans in and goes, tell me your heart. Right. So So what's some examples of belittling experiences where you've heard people say things to you that didn't really help when you were going through a hard time?
One common response, which I have also done, is there's worse things going on. So when somebody shares or you share, I'm feeling sad, I'm having a hard time, and I were to respond, well, there's worse things. It could be worse. There's, homelessness. There's poverty. There's hunger. There's divorces going on. Your problem is very small compared to that. Or speaking that way to myself when I'm having a hard time and speaking to myself, it could be worse. There's worse things going on. And it shuts down our hearts and minimizes the pain.
Yeah. Totally. So it shuts down our heart, minimizes the pain, and then all of a sudden it's like, I actually can't trust you with what is actually going on inside of me anymore, because you're saying at least, and you're comparing it to a situation. And here's the thing, no matter how much you compare, there's always going to be somebody that has a bigger issue, a bigger problem. You will never win the comparison game. That's why people say comparison is identity suicide, because no matter how, and I used to do that to myself and be like, oh, well, at least I don't have it as bad as this person or have it as bad as that person. The moment I do that is the moment the Lord goes, you're not being real with your heart, son. Like, you're actually pushing down the emotions that need to be expressed. And so, and here's the crazy thing. I asked God, like, what is emotional health? And he goes, I'm emotional health. I am the most emotionally healthy person in the universe, because I knew how to cry. I knew how to have joy. I knew how to have boundaries. I knew how to dance. I knew how to do all of the emotions really well. And so, like, did I get lifted up, do you guys think, when she said, well, at least you don't have this? Like, just tell me. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it, right? So, real quick example. What if I said, I'm just going to make up one on the spot. Hey, I'll just say you're a friend. Hey, I'm going through a really, really hard time in my life, and I'm actually going through a lot of depression, and it feels really tough right now. This is after you just asked me how I'm doing. And I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. It feels like I'm in a swirl and I'm stuck, and I'm just having a really hard day today. And when what's an unhealthy response to that?
An unhealthy response, besides the one I just gave, could be, I can totally imagine what you're going through. I actually had a bad day today too. So, I was cut off on the freeway. This man yelled at me out the window, and my to-go order didn't even come on time. Can you just wait a sec? Let me go grab a coffee, and then so my friend, did this and that, and so the point is the whole focus becomes about me.
Yeah, turning it back to yourself. Now, what's a healthy response?
Wow, I can't even imagine what you're going through. I'm so sorry. It sounds like your heart feels sadness. Would you like to talk about it more? What's the hardest thing that's been going on?
Perfect. Can we just give it a round of applause for my wifey? That was good. That was great. So what she just did right there at the end, she said, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. I can't even imagine. Like, that would be really hard, what your heart is going through in this moment. She just validated that what I was experiencing was painful. And the reason why that's important is because we can tend to get to this place of logic where it's like, but Jesus died for you. You shouldn't be sad. But that's not the point, because my heart is still feeling like it's true. The experience that I just faced when somebody cut me off of the freeway and I got super angry and now I'm like super triggered, like, and my heart's flustering, like that is a real experience where I actually need somebody to be like, I'm so sorry. Like that must have been really tough, and validate it, and then have compassion for me. And I see the Lord do that in my life all the time. I have never had the Lord come up to me when I'm facing a hard time and him actually be like, Anthony, how dare you feel sad right now in this moment? I've never had the Lord ever belittle my emotions. What I have had him do is come close to me and say, son, I'm here. My presence is here, and it's greater than what you're facing. And I know it's tough. I know it's hard, but I'm going to be with you in the midst of it. I'm going to walk alongside you until you feel healthy and whole, until you feel victorious, right? And then the moment I do that is the moment I feel strength. So just like that Bible verse I just read, his compassion overflowed in me, and all of a sudden I was like, I could face what I'm facing right now. And so, really quick backstory. I grew up with a lot of anxiety, depression, loneliness, self-hatred, anger. No, it's hard to imagine me angry, but I really was super angry. I had a lot of anger because I had a lot of just events and traumatic experiences that went on in my life as a kid that really caused me to be mad at the world, mad at life, and self-hatred towards myself. And so I actually grew up with all these heightened emotions. And because I had so many heightened emotions, like the anxiety, the panic attacks, the depression, all that stuff, I actually ended up believing the lie that if I have heightened emotions, then I'm weak or I'm not strong enough. And because I actually couldn't get rid of them, and I like literally couldn't get rid of them, I saw counselors, I talked to people about it, went to doctors, and nobody was able to like counsel me or fix me out of it. Not against counseling. I do counseling, but I just remember that lie came in, that emotions are bad and emotions make you weak. How many of you guys ever had that lie come up before in your life? And the reason, you might be like, whoa, why are we talking about emotions in church? Because God's an emotional God. And that's really the big reason why I want to talk about emotional health, is because he has emotions. And if you're not experiencing him in your emotions, then there's actually a whole other side of him that you're actually missing out on. And I'm not trying to create the FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, but I do want to exhort you that if you're only experiencing him in your mind, there could be a lot more. No, not could be. There is a lot more that you're actually not experiencing from the Father. And so confusion with this tension that I had growing up of being like, I don't like emotions. Emotions are bad. Anxiety, not only that, but my parents had crazy emotions. So I really didn't trust emotions, because every time they had crazy emotions, it was like out of control, anger, rage, panic. I saw all of it. My parents did not know how to regulate their emotions in a healthy way. And I learned I'm not doing that. So what did I do? I stuffed all of it down until I was like, no emotions, I'm cool, I'm chill, and I just don't ever want to feel ever, because all that panic and stuff that's not for me, right? And it would really I really have some tension, because I'd read the book of Psalms and I'd look at David's life and I'd be like, what? This guy felt so much emotion. Like, if you look at David's life, he lived wildly. He was full of expression. He was moaning, groaning, yelling, screaming, crying out his heart to God. He was at one moment singing praise to the Lord, writing songs of worship, and the next thing you know, he's dancing naked. And so I was like, if God hates emotions, that would be an odd candidate for him to pick. Yet he was the one that God said, that's the man after my own heart. And that's how I want to live my life. I want to live like David, because he lived fully alive, and he lived with his expression. And let's go ahead and turn to Psalms. Actually, before we go to Psalms, I just want to read one more thing. We're going to get there. There's one more thing I did want to say about emotions, and this is a quote, is that emotions are like kids. You can't put them in the trunk of your car, but you can't let them drive it either. And so that's what I want to talk about, the balance. So we as Christians are meant to be victorious over our emotions. Emotionally healthy, victorious Christians don't let emotions enslave them, but they don't stuff them down like I did either. And this was the part that I did want to bring up, is when I did stuff them down, I ended up having a mental breakdown in high school. So I stuffed them down since I was like 7. You know, I don't ever want to feel stuff. So I picked up steam every year, because I just didn't want to feel emotions. Emotions make me weak. Emotions aren't good. Emotions aren't God. Emotions are from the devil. If I feel triggered, that's the devil. You know, like, so when I finally got to high school, it just blew up and had a breakdown, and that was the moment God came in and started showing me, hey, son, actually, you need to feel what's going on inside of your heart. I'm a God that loves emotions and actually cares about all that's going on inside that little heart of yours that you think, you know, is not good. And that's when he started showing me, you can't hide your emotions in the trunk. So let's go ahead and go to Psalms 13. If you want, you could put that up on the screen. I think I realize why Joe and Eric always have the little side mic. It's a lot easier to turn the pages. Okay. Psalms 13, verse 1. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. Enlighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemies say, I have prevailed against him. Lest those who trouble me rejoice when I am moved. But I have trusted in your mercy. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. And you see, this is actually how processing the emotions going on inside of you is actually supposed to be. David just got real and he got honest with the Lord. And he was like, God, why have you left me? Where are you? You've forsaken me. I feel lost. And then all of a sudden he goes, but I have trusted in your mercy. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. Bill Johnson says, the ability to hold on to truth, even though you don't feel it, is integrity. And that's exactly what David's doing. He's going, God, there's so much going on inside of me. Like, I feel broken. I mean, you guys ever have that? Like I feel broken, God. Like, I feel horrible. I feel like you've left me. Where are you? I don't understand what's going on in my life. I'm confused. But God, I know you're good. You're a good father. You haven't left me. I have a history with you where I know you'll come through for me again, but this is hard, but I'm going to stick to your truth. That is a healthy way of being able to process what you're feeling and bring it back by staying in the truth of God. See, I'm not staying there. I'm not going like, oh, like I'm broken. I'm going to be this way forever. Like, don't do that. Don't set up camp in the enemy's battlefield, right? But process it, express it to the Lord, so that way He could deal with it. And that's where freedom comes. And so in my journey of, going after expressing my emotions to God and loving every part of who I am and all that stuff, I learned that the Lord actually revealed this to me, is that I actually didn't trust myself with emotions. And He brought me back to some situations that happened in my childhood where, because I saw, my dad and my mom, they argued, and bless them, love them, like, they didn't know how to actually regulate their emotions in a healthy way. And they didn't actually know how to come up to me and say, Anthony, like, I know that you're experiencing all this hard anxiety and depression and stuff, but it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. This isn't who you are. Let me help you. I didn't have that. I grew up seeing like out of control rage. And once emotions took over, it was like, don't talk to dad. It was like, leave the house, hide, and, I learned throughout that process that I couldn't trust myself. I didn't trust the emotions that came up in me whenever I felt heavy emotions. And the Lord started coming into that place and saying, Anthony, I'm actually going to show you that you don't have to be afraid of what comes up inside of you. I'm bigger than that. My spirit is in you. I haven't given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of self-control, which is also a sound mind. I just speak that over you guys, that you guys don't have a spirit of fear. You don't have a spirit of out of control, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Everyone say, I receive that for myself. That's my calling. Everyone say, that's my calling. That's my mandate. That's my destiny. Amen. And so, everyone go to, this is going to be so funny. Luke 24. You guys doing okay? You guys are like, I'm triggered. I have so much emotions now. You guys could take a break. You have permission. I feel a lot of emotion too. Luke 24. I probably won't read this whole thing. I think I'll start at what did I put down? 32. Okay, I'll go ahead and start at verse 28. Then they drew near to the village. This is on the road to Emmaus. Then they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone farther. So there's this guy who's going with the disciples on the road to Emmaus, and it's Jesus, but they don't know it's Jesus. And so they're just kind of blindly following this guy who they don't know, and because Jesus came up saying, like, hey, what has happened here? And the disciples are like, where have you been? Like, Jesus just got crucified, like the Son of God just came, and then Jesus, who they don't know is Jesus, is like, tell me more. Let's walk together, And then so like the disciples are walking with this guy. They don't even know who's Jesus. To me, that's like insane. And for some reason, like I always imagine like this guy is like a guy with sunglasses, laid back. He's all chill, and it's just like cool, laid back Jesus. But you don't really know it's Jesus. And for some reason, I imagine it like this, where they're just like, they're like, who is who is that? And so I'll keep that there. I think I just messed up your guys' view on Jesus. Don't worry, I'm not saying this is who Jesus is, okay? I'm just saying this is what my mind goes to when I read this story. Then their eyes were opened. Oh, wait. Yeah. Then they drew near to the village, and again, verse 29, but they constrained him, saying, abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to stay with them. Now it came to pass, as he sat at the table with them, oh, I love this part, that he took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they knew him. And he vanished from their sight. I just love that. They're like, Jesus! And then all of a sudden it's like, oh! And then all of a sudden they see the real Jesus. You can put the next picture. We're just like, bam! It's like, Jesus! And then he vanishes. So now you guys know what my picture of Jesus looks like. You guys are like, that's Thor. It's mythology. It's Greek God. No, that's not what I'm saying, guys. And here's what I love after, you can take the picture off. The verse right after it says he vanished from their sight. It's just so funny. I'd be so mad if Jesus did that to me. Like he just shows up and he's like, boom, I'm gone. I'm like, no, Jesus. Verse 32, and they said to one another, oh, did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? See, if you actually don't learn how to actually come in contact with your emotions, you miss out on the burning within us thing. The only reason they had, oh, my heart is burning within us is because they were attached to Jesus' words. They had a relationship with him, and their hearts were actually connected. And one thing that we're actually all learning how to do, I'm still learning how to do, is be connected to my own heart. I say it all the time with worship, is the hardest person to lead into worship is not you guys, it's myself. Like, if I can't lead myself in worship, it's going to be really hard to lead a whole room. I'm the commander of my own heart, and I have to guard this thing with all diligence. I heard somebody say the other day, I was on like a counseling call, and this guy was counseling this other person who was having a really hard time with her parents and struggling. And one of the things the counselor said is, he said, you know what? Parents, the reason you're mad at your parents is not because they weren't perfect. It's because they were disconnected. And I think that's so true. Like, when we're disconnected in our hearts, it's so easy for me to just get defensive about anything that's talked about. It's like, hey, did you do this? Why'd you say that? That's not me. I didn't do that. It's all of a sudden, like, you could talk to me about anything, something that doesn't have anything to do with who I am as a person, and I could take it to the next level and just get super defensive and start arguing with you about, like, how dare you say that about me, which has happened. And so I kind of want to just give some mentions or some points in the Bible that prove that the heart is actually positive and not wicked and deceitful. How many of you guys have ever heard, like, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all else? Don't trust it. Don't trust that thing. Well, I have a very opposite belief about that, and I actually want to show you guys why you actually should trust your heart, and why it's important to speak to your heart, why it's important to have compassion on your heart, why it's important to let love into your heart, and why it's important to feel. Ezekiel 36:26 says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So the whole concept is pretty simple. It's just like, take out the stony one, give you a one that feels. And that's pretty much it. The heart is mentioned 570 times in the Bible. 399 of them, guys, are positive. 35 are negative, and 76 are neutral. So most of the scriptures that talk about our hearts are positive. And in the Bible, the heart is regarded as the seat of emotion and the source of spiritual life. It's the center of man's will and the power of his decisions. To me, it's actually another way of renewing my mind, is when I am actually speaking to my heart and allowing God to speak to my heart. And right now it's kind of sad, because if you're a man in society today, if you feel and you have a lot of emotions, all of a sudden it's like you're a sissy, you're a pansy, you're weak, you're gay. Like, I've heard all of those things where it's like there's something wrong with you. And it's really this horrible thing that says, like, once feelings comes in the picture, there's something wrong. And for women, I've seen women be more on the side of like, I just want to be unaffectable. It's like, this girl called me and did not call me back, you know, like that whole, like, I don't want anything to like get in my heart, because I want people to know I'm strong. And I'm not saying all women are like that. I'm just saying, like, I've seen it with friends who, like, literally are just like, I don't want anything to affect me, and I want to just be cool and just be like a rock, you know? And it's that whole thing that's just like unaffectableness, right? Because that looks powerful on the outside when nothing affects you. But the truth is that we're human, and God actually created us so we actually could be affected and process the affections in a healthy way, where we can bring it back to the Father and say, God, here's honestly what I'm going through. What is the truth that you have for me in this moment? I remember my cousin used to always say to me, like, dude, stop being so cool. Like in, like, not like a good way, but like when I was in like youth, like I would always like never want to raise my hands in worship, because I was like, I just want to look cool. You know, it's like, keep my hands in my pocket, make sure my hair looks good, you know, and not get all like out there and wildly expressive like David, right? And so I remember one time I was like up in Big Bear in youth camp, and I was like, it was snowing, and I had like this really puffy jacket that was super warm, but I didn't want to wear it because it looked ugly. But because I was like so obsessed, and my mom bought it for me. It was like a really expensive jacket, and like, but because I was obsessed with looking cool, you know, I didn't wear the jacket. I walked in the snow everywhere with just a t-shirt, and then people looked at me like I was crazy because I was so obsessed with how I looked. I was like, I want to be unaffectable, right? I want people to know I'm strong. I don't feel like I don't have emotions that need tending to. And so my cousin came up to me. He's like, dude, stop trying to be so cool, okay? Just put on the stinking jacket. He's like, he said something like, I would much rather have comfort than coolness. He's like, because you're messing up your body right now, and something like that. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm too obsessed with I had like an aha moment of just being like, I think I care too much about how I look. And so, but I see that with people these days where it's just like, I want to look a certain way so that way I can be depicted as a strong person. Because I've been told my whole life that I was weak for having emotions that doesn't pair up to society's standards. And because that doesn't, I lock them in the trunk. But really, I feel a lot, you know? And I want to be like David. I got to this point where I was literally just like, man, I just want to be like, God, wreck me, like, fire down, like, get me drunk. Like, I just want to be overtaken by you. Like, that's so much better than just trying to be stiff, you know? And I want to be that way here. I want us to be that way where we're just like, God, affect me the way, however you want to affect me. Touch me however you want to touch me. Burn in my heart whatever way you want to burn in my heart and the affections of my soul until I am completely overtaken by your presence. That's how David was. He wasn't afraid to express, to dance butt naked. Don't do that here, though. Because he was so in love with God, he knew that nothing else matters. Nothing else matters than being in the presence of God. And when you're in the presence of God, you can't help but unleash all that's within you, right? You can't help but emotionally express all that God's doing inside of you. And so I have a quick testimony I'll share. So you guys heard about my heightened emotion experience where I was like feeling stuff all the time. And I also went through a moment where I wasn't feeling anything. How many of you guys have ever had that happen? That was super scary for me. I remember I went to Bethel School, Supernatural Ministry, 6 years ago. It was my first year of school. Prior to that, the whole first year, I was feeling, I literally just had one day, I just stopped feeling. I can't tell you what happened. I don't know what happened. I just remember all of a sudden, I didn't feel anything. And it just felt like less and less emotions were getting put in the trunk. And I ended up going to Bethel. And when I got there, I saw everybody like manifesting and praising God and, like we do here. And, just like feeling God's presence in worship. And I'm standing in worship just being like, what about me? What's wrong with me? Like, why can't I feel? Like and there was a lot of fears and traumas that were actually taking place inside of my heart that I didn't want to actually touch. And so what happened was I was just pushing it all down, saying I didn't want to feel until I literally just couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything in the presence of God. And I was super freaked out. And I just remember Jesus kept saying to me, Anthony, I just want you to every day just keep saying yes to the process, even though you don't understand. And so every day I would get out of my little twin bunk bed with my roommates in the morning, and I would get on the floor and just be like, God, I don't know what's going on. I hate this. I hate not feeling you. I hate not feeling you close. But I say yes to your process. I say yes to what you're doing in my life. I know that you're a God of miracles. I know that you're doing something great in my life. I know that this isn't going to last forever, but right now it feels horrible. But I want you to know, even though it feels horrible, you have my 100% complete yes, because I'm following you no matter what. And I think 3-4 months went by, still being in school, where it's like some of the best worship, right? Bethel. Not feeling anything. And I just remember one time they're leading worship and the Lord said, I want you to just go up to the front. And so I went up to the front of the stage and I just got down on my knees and I just told the Lord, God, I don't know what's going on. I can't feel you. All this worship is going on. Everybody else is feeling you and I'm not. But you know what? You have my yes. And then all of a sudden, the song, I love your presence started playing. And I literally I can't even describe it to you fully, but I literally just saw this portal open up and Jesus literally stepped through the portal, walked through my walls and touched me. And the moment he touched me, everything just came back to life. All the emotions just came full on 100%. And then I was I couldn't stop crying. So it was the opposite of I don't feel any emotions. And the lie that was in there was that, if you don't feel God, you must not love him. And I want to say this to you guys, that if you don't feel God today, it doesn't mean that you don't love him. So I want to just rebuke that lie that says, if you're not feeling him enough, or if you're not feeling him as much as this person is, then you don't love him as much. That's such a lie from the enemy to get you to believe that you're not connected. I have a belief system that says I'm always connected because he's the vine and he lives in me. He lives in my heart. So even when I don't feel, he's showing up. He's there. He's present. He's doing something. He's speaking. He's moving. He's breathing, and so he walked through all my walls and touched me, and all of a sudden I came to life. And I realized that season of not feeling anything, he was still there the whole time. He was just showing up differently than how I was used to. So if you're not feeling anything today, it could be that he's just showing up in your life that's way differently than how you're used to. And during that season when I was not feeling anything, I do remember, I'll backtrack real quick, sorry guys. I do remember feeling him once. And it was the only time I would actually feel him, and that's when I would pray for people. And so every time I'd go up to somebody and put my hands on somebody and just pray for them, I'd all of a sudden feel his presence. So I was addicted to going up to people and just being like, oh my gosh, I need to pray for you, right now. I'm not feeling anything. And then all of a sudden it was I would just feel this crazy whiplash of his presence. And then I'd leave and then nothing. So I learned God was actually showing up in a different way. He was showing me how to pray for people and find his presence in people. And he was showing me how to love people even though I wasn't feeling it. Back to the quote, right? Even though I don't feel it, and I hold on to truth, that's integrity. And so Jesus walked through my walls, he touched me, and I was on the floor. I literally took the flannel off my back because there was so much tears and snot coming out where I literally had to put my flannel on my face to stop all the liquids that were flaring out. And I remember having this feeling of I don't care what anybody thinks. I could stay here forever, forever in the presence of God. And I had that was I've never cried so much in my life. Still to this day, that day, I've never cried that hard, where it was almost like I couldn't breathe because his presence was so thick. And that's just a glimpse of what eternity is going to be like, guys. So eternity, we're going to be feeling a lot, and it's going to be amazing. But I want to start now, not just when I get to heaven. And so, thanks. So I put down here, reason people don't like emotions is because of how they grew up seeing how emotions are not safe. And that was my story. So most of the time when people are like, nah, emotion stuff ain't for me, it's because we've actually seen it really badly displayed. And the Father has a lot of compassion, guys. He has a lot of compassion for what we've experienced during childhood and how we've grown up actually believing it's that I don't like emotions. And I even feel like God was saying today that he wants to heal that. He actually wants to heal the parts of your hearts where you actually believe, if I look at this pain, if I look at this experience that I had a long time ago, I'll never get out of it. I'll never get free. I'll stay stuck in it forever. Because that is the lie that with any lie, right, that we experience, which is if I look at this painful experience, it'll never go away. And it's that hopeless tactic that the enemy tries to get us to believe, is that there's no solution. But there's always a solution with Jesus. Another thing I put is people think I'll be logical and no one will ever hurt me. I've definitely done that one. Throw my emotions in the trunk unless we can prove them. So logic. Oh, kind of like what we were saying in the front. Oh, you're experiencing that? Well, that doesn't you're experiencing a hard time in your life? That doesn't make sense. Jesus died for you. It's all in the past. That's logic. I'm using logic to try to protect, not to actually relate to what the other person is feeling, because really deep down inside, I'm afraid to touch emotion. So logic becomes my safety mechanism. And That's happened to me many times. But the awesome thing is that people who are connected to their hearts don't let their emotions enslave them. And that's why I love David. He was connected to his heart. Although he did let his emotions enslave him some with Bathsheba. And that's why it's a good example. Don't do that. And so let's turn to John 11:33. So this is when Jesus raises Lazarus from the tomb. He says, therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus wept. I love this passage because more logic-centered people, which, yeah, for sure me, I've done that, in that situation would be like, why would you need to cry? Jesus is going to raise him from the dead. He's not gone. He's going to be back in like 5 seconds. But Jesus, in this moment, didn't bypass the process. Because Jesus was actually more focused on sharing what he was feeling inside with everybody else. And so why would you, here's like a question is why would you weep when you know somebody's going to be raised back again from the dead? And here's the reason why is because he knew, he did know that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. But I wrote it down here. Weeping was not doubt to him. Weeping was humanity. And so the moment you say, like, if I experience emotion, that's like I'm sad or I'm crying or I'm feeling loss in my heart because I've lost somebody. And the moment like that you say that's doubt is the moment you actually are not having faith. Because faith is actually being able to cry. One of the reasons I had Kate do this, lead the song, Son of Suffering, is because the lyrics are so powerful. He's a God who weeps, he's a God who bleeds. Oh, praise the one who'd reach for me, hallelujah. The God of suffering. Like the God who weeps with me, the God who gets in the dirt with me. Like Jesus got in the dirt with those who were crying and he said, I'm going to cry too. Because if God actually didn't experience those emotions, he actually wouldn't be able to relate to us when we would be in hardship. And I want a God who can come to me and say, I know exactly what you're feeling. You're going to be okay. Here's my truth. Here's my love. I got you, you know? Another thing people say, before the cross, it doesn't really matter. Ooh, that's a big one. I'm so excited to do this one. I hear this all the time, especially when I'm teaching emotional health or loving yourself. It's just like, don't revisit the past. If you revisit the past, then you're going past the blood of Jesus, and Jesus isn't there, and it doesn't matter because that's before the cross. But you can only do things that are after the cross, and you really need to, if that is a belief system you really got to ask yourself, does Jesus only care about my present, or does he also care about my past? Well, no, don't change it. No, if he cares about my past, then there's pain there. And if there's pain there, then he wants love to get into every corner, every crevice, every space until all of it is filled with his unconditional love that fills every room. Your house, this is your house, and there's rooms in your house. And every room, Jesus knows there's not love there. So what does he do? I'm going to come into that space, son. It's going to be hard. It might be painful, but I want you to live fully alive. And if you hold on to this and you let this pain enslave you, it's going to pop up one day, and you'll go around the mountain again, and next time it'll bite harder. But if you let my love in now, I will take care of it. And I want to tell you guys, like, God's so good at taking care of the junk that you think is not worthy of love. And there's a misconception I see with loving yourself, which is like, loving yourself is like taking yourself to go mani-pedis, or like buy all the good clothes, or like spa days. And it's like, no, that's not actually what loving yourself is. Loving yourself is stinking hard, guys. And I've been doing it for years, and it has been the hardest journey ever, because you literally got to look at the stuff in your life that you think is not worthy of love, and that is so painful. And then you got to go, I'm going to choose to let love in. I'm going to choose to love myself in this area because God loves every part of me, right? So it does matter before the cross. I was on my, I think it was like, it was a couple months ago. I was on my bed and I was feeling anxious. I don't even remember what it was about. I was feeling anxious, and then I was like, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden I heard the voice of the Lord say, Anthony, I just want you to get up and walk outside. So I heard it so clear. I just got up, walked outside, and then I just expressed honestly to God what I was feeling inside, and was like, God, I feel alone. I feel broken. Where are you? Why am I still going through this? How am I still experiencing this? Where are you? God, where are you? Like, I feel alone. I'm here in this place. I'm doing what you said, but where are you, God? And then all of a sudden, it just left. Poof. I emptied myself out. And then all of a sudden, he came in and filled. And all of a sudden, I was able to like, I felt joy. And then he took me into the space of saying, Anthony, now I want you to speak over your own heart, who you really are. And I want you to just speak life over your heart. And so I just started speaking life over my heart until I felt anxiety lift. And all of a sudden, I came back home just feeling super alive, right? And it was because I was able to be honest with the Lord and empty myself. And some of you guys are saying, God, come and fill. Come and fill. But he can't come to a full cup. He wants you to actually empty so that way he can come and fill and overflow. That's how he overflows, is when we empty out and he comes and flows in. That's called relationship. It takes mutual consent. Like, I'm sharing with him what's going on inside of me, and he's pouring back into me who he says I am. David did that so well, right? Where he said, test me, try me, and know my anxious heart. And what's so funny about that passage is he starts off in Psalms 139 saying, God, you know all my thoughts. You know everything about me. You know where I rise, where I sit, where I fall, where I sleep. Like you read that passage and you're like, dang, God knows everything about me. And then at the very end, he says, but God, know my anxiousness, know my anxious heart. Test me and try me. Put me to the test. So he says God knows me, and then he says, but God, I want you to come in and know my anxieties. And I do believe that God does know everything, but he chooses to withhold certain things, to know certain things, because he's waiting for us to actually come to him and say, know what the real things that are going on in my heart. Because that's John 17, right? Where it's like, depart from me. I never knew you. How does he know you? He knows you by you emptying out. Here's what I'm really thinking. And I'm honest before you, because I want a real relationship. I don't want to just be like, I'm good. Like the scripture says God's good, And so that's life, And, but really there's more depth. So everyone go to 2 Corinthians 1, 3-4. How you guys doing? Doing good? Woo, emotions. I love emotions. Okay. 2 Corinthians 1. Oh, wait, is that the one? Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. It was the wrong Corinthians. Wait, is that it? Wrong one. 1 Corinthians 13. Sorry. Okay. So, I just want to read this over your guys' hearts right now. This is the love chapter of 1 Corinthians 13. I love this passage because when I look at what love is, it's God. Because God is love. So a lot of times I'll take this scripture. I literally just did it last night. Put my hand on my heart, and I'll literally just start to speak over myself who God is in my life. And this is a picture of how God sees us, but it's also a picture of how we're to see ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and just start reading from verse 1. If I were to speak with the eloquence in earth's many languages and in the heavenly tongues of angels, this is Passion Translation, yet I didn't express myself with love, my words would be reduced to the hollow sound of nothing more than a clanging cymbal. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy with a profound understanding of God's hidden secrets, and if I possessed unending supernatural knowledge, and if I had the greatest gift of faith that could move mountains but have not learned to love, then I am nothing. And if I were to be so generous as to give away everything I owned to feed the poor and to offer my body to be burned as a martyr, without the pure motive of love, I would gain nothing of value. Love is large and incredibly patient. So here's how I read it. God is large and incredibly patient. God is gentle and consistently kind to all. He refuses to be jealous when blessing comes to someone else. God does not brag about one's achievements, nor inflates his own importance. God does not traffic in shame and disrespect, nor selfishly seek its own honor. God is not easily irritated or quick to take offense. God joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. God is a safe place of shelter, for he never stops believing the best for others. God never takes up failure as defeat, for he never gives up. God never stops loving. You can look at this if you ever want to know what's a good picture of how I'm supposed to come to myself with love. This is a good picture right here, because everything that it says about what love is, who God is how God looks at you. He looks at you with patience. He looks at you with gentleness. He looks at you and goes, I'm never giving up. I'm always going to keep loving. I'm always going to keep my love on. And if there is like something, a belief that says, I can't love myself because it's too prideful or it's too me, and all I need is God's love, is you really got to ask yourself, did Jesus ever hate himself? Did Jesus ever not love himself? Because if I'm supposed to be an imitator of God, an imitator of Jesus, then I actually need to be doing the same thing. And so what I see a lot is like, I'll use this example as like, let's say like this is a picture and like an artist painted it. And then I look at that picture and I'm like, my gosh, like that picture is horrible. It's ugly. The brush strokes are off. Like the color is all warped and bland. But I guess it's good because the artist made it. That's what we tend to do with our own personal painting. We tend to go like, oh, God made it, so it's cool, but really I can't see the value in it. And what happens is I actually spit in the face of my creator because I'm saying what you made wasn't good enough. So the moment you actually say, beating myself up is better than loving myself, is actually you're devaluing his creation. But we actually need to look at ourselves as going like, no, I actually am valuable. I am worthy. God did pay a high price just so that way I could live and be restored to the Father. Like that's a beautiful thing. And so really quick, if I can get the worship team to come up, I did want to share just some misconceptions, lies about loving yourself. And then I also have what loving yourself actually does. So here's a lie. If I love myself, it makes everything about me. If I love myself and I'm gentle with myself, then I'll never grow. And that one's funny to me because we believe that if we go through the nature of darkness, we'll reap the nature of light. And so like we believe like I need to push myself and be hard on myself in order to get to where I need to go. And I see that that's like a common thread in humanity where it's like I need to push myself really hard, have self-hatred so that way I can really grow. But if I'm gentle with myself, then I actually am afraid I'll never grow. And really, like I asked the question like, you got yourself this far with hating yourself. I wonder how far you'd get with loving yourself. Like probably a lot more, right? If you love yourself, then you will be prideful. That one's funny too because Jesus loved himself and he had no pride. And he never had to be like, I'm the Son of God. Look at me. I'm going to prove it. Right? He just was. He was just being a son. And one thing I really love about Jesus is, we actually don't know like the first, 15 years, 17 years of his life, like growing up as a kid, like all those years. I don't know if that's the right number, but there's a big chunk of his early life that's actually missing. And the reason why I actually think we actually don't know what he was doing during that time is because he was literally just learning how to be a son. He was not trying to prove anything. He was not trying to do any miracles. He was literally, he could have been, I don't know, but I think he was just trying to be a son and let God's love fill him during that whole time until the time was ready for him to come. Another lie, if you love yourself, then you will be pride. Oh, wait, no. Is that it? He had no pride. Oh, yeah. So, Bill Johnson says, I refuse to criticize myself more than Jesus would have himself. So if you do think it's good to criticize yourself, Jesus actually doesn't. So one way that's easy for me to actually go after what does my heart need right now? How do I actually love myself? Is I go, what do I imagine Jesus saying over himself? And here's what loving yourself actually does. Loving yourself creates humility instead of judgment. Loving yourself is actually trusting God. Why is it trusting God? Because I had a friend who asked that question to God, and God responded, the people who let me love them before they love themselves is trusting me. Because it's actually more prideful, believe it or not, to hate yourself and to try to fix yourself before God could love you. Because God goes, no, I don't want you to fix yourself. I want my unconditional love to come in and to fill every room. So the more that I love myself, the more aware I am, the more I'm aware of my need for Jesus. That's actually so true. I'm more aware of my need for him when I come to myself with compassion and I realize, wow, this compassion is powerful in my life. And so what I want you guys to do is I just want you to put your hand on your heart. It's actually proven by psychologists and scientists that if you put your hand on your heart, it actually relieves your nervous system. So this is why I actually do this all the time, is because I literally feel peace knowing that God lives in my heart. So I trust that when I speak to my heart, God's gonna speak because he lives there. And I just want to give you guys permission right now to open yourself up. I give your hearts permission to open up.